The other thing that was pointed out by Professor Vasi is more than more. It introduces a paradigm shift in how semiconductors are deployed. So against all these changes, I think you have to put any fab in that perspective, that what is it playing in? It is not playing only against a standard model of a PC driving a CPU. And that itself leads to the probability of success of any fab today looking at its spread of products. So now secondary is, in India, the way we see it is there is enough opportunity given the rest of the ecosystem that is present here to actually innovate on areas that is ongoing. Let me look at the roadmap in that perspective, that there is quite a few areas of innovation and differentiation that can be driven because of the rest of the ingredients of the ecosystem already being here. And I think if you look at the difference between being a, let's use the word, a latecomer in this perspective, is the fact that many countries had the fab first and the rest of the ecosystem built around it. We've got the situation reversed. And there is a benefit to that as well. I think the optimization that can be delivered is a differentiation in itself in this regard. And the second part, I think, is, as was pointed out by Om yesterday in his talk, is the ability, there are critical sectors in India that can lead to leadership positions, especially in the areas of medical sciences, medical devices, healthcare, security, that are critical to the country needs, as well as that can be globalized. So having the fab, there is mechanisms to differentiate against what is called standard roadmap items, but then there's the ability to really start to lead in areas. And these two are the reasons why I think this fab is not just viable, it is going to be successful.
So you believe the co-location with the innovation ecosystem and products addressing those unique market opportunities that India presents is the secret sauce for success?
Well, I think it is the necessary sauce for success, given the pervasiveness of semiconductor technology and the applicability of devices it is. So the new devices that are coming out, really, I think, again, bleeding edge, leading edge, the customization required in itself is the differentiation. And I think there's a lot of customization. Look at the example of the acquisition of Google for Next. A thermostat company was acquired for $3.2 billion. And I think, you know, so to say anything is leading, bleeding, I think is a misnomer.
Yeah, we're not talking about leading or bleeding. We are talking about an Indian fab creating competitive differentiation in a global landscape.
Yes.
Right? How do you compete with the likes of TSMC and SMIC and Global Foundries that have been in the business for a while, have deep pockets, are investing, have a market position, right? If any customer, global or Indian, has to choose today, let's say between a TSMC on the one hand, or Global Foundries or a Samsung, and an Indian fab on the other hand, why would they choose the Indian fab? That's the question I'm trying to.
Yes, and I think it is also, it will take concerted effort by all the players in the ecosystem to differentiate here. It's not a given. And I think that is really the opportunity here for all members of the ecosystem, starting, I think, with the products, to really look at how do we create this sustained differentiation. It will have to bring together everybody, and that's what I meant by saying it is necessary to have all the ingredients of the ecosystem in place.
Okay, great. Dr. Rabi wants to add something.
To that, as I said, I mean, we're not talking of necessarily pure play foundry.
Sure.
I can understand your question in the context of us operating as a pure play foundry. There'll be price pressures. even there, I am not afraid. Let me tell you that when we are dealing with some specialized analog technologies that can bear the wafers, process wafers can bear a higher price, we can, with marginal costing and all that, I'm sure we'll have no problems, meeting the price expectations of the customers that want us to use part of our capacity as foundry. But I would like to emphasize the differentiation will largely come from the fact where, given our low engineering costs in the entire value chain, I think that is what we'll have to take advantage of, and that is what will provide that needed differentiation. And I'm saying the entire value chain. That is in the design, that is in the process design and development. And that's, I'm sure, we'll be talking about that for sustainability, for us to be able to come up with newer technology nodes. I mean, it's imperative that we have strong process design and development capability. And believe me, that itself is, engineering cost, because our engineering cost will be much smaller. We can, for local customers as well as customers from overseas, we can offer them that advantage, and that's where the differentiation will come from. I mean, I could give you many examples of my own experience in the past, how we've done things in SCL, what it meant, how we developed different flavors of the process technology. When we were our own customers, our own design department, design house would come up with, I remember a long time ago, when we first came up with the first 3-micron technology, after we started our production with 5 micron, that's a licensed technology. We did the 3 micron. First we did the 5 volt. Then we developed different variants. As our own designer said, no, I want a low voltage variant of 1.2 volts. Somebody said, I want a 15 volts because I want to do a gate array. And then somebody said, I want to do for the telephone chip, the tone ringer, it requires 28 volts. And speech circuit would require plus minus 80 volts. So all that, at their asking, our process designers were there to come up with these variants. I mean, it was usually, those days the customers were, they were
Sure.
for not too many customers.
So
we're able to do that. So that's what.
So, Dr. Maduri, for process development, you're going to count on your partners, right? Or are you going to make an investment in terms of process development locally here in India as well?
No, I think if I go back to your previous question, why would people come for the India fab?
Yeah.
I think it's not an India fab, it's not a JP fab. We have partners who have been in this sector for a long time. They're established leaders. Our implementation partner is very successfully running foundries at various locations across the world. They're making profits on that. So I think the strength of the India fab is going to be the strength of the consortia. And I think people are going to come for that. Yes, I think in our proposal to the Government of India, we have said that we're not talking about pure play foundry only, as Dr. Zarabi has said. We're looking at adding on the design element because it has to be an India product service. Also looking at backends, ATMP, etc., in the next 3 to 5 years.
So fully integrated.
We will get into the full gamut of
fully integrated
value
chain. So I think that answers 2 of the questions. Number 1, I don't think we should really look at as a quote-unquote India fab. We should look at as a fab that perhaps located in India, but with global players contributing towards it, both from a technology process perspective, but also from the foundry perspective. And in terms of business, it's not targeting India customers only. It's a global play, and you're targeting customers globally, and that's where the role of the consortia partners becomes extremely important, right? So great. Let's move on now to the ecosystem question that's on many people's minds, right? I mean, we talk about the ecosystem. So if you think about the ecosystem in the context of a fab, there are really 2 sets of ecosystems, right? One is the fab ecosystem itself, the one that's surrounding immediately around the fab, the suppliers, the chemicals, the gases, the wafers, etc., that support the fab per se. And then there is the broader ESDM ecosystem, and they both have implications on the success of the fab and sustainability of the fab. So, Professor Vasi, I want to start by getting your perspective on where we are on this journey as a country, right? Where the ecosystem is today. I'm going to venture and say, as far as the fab ecosystem is concerned, pretty much doesn't exist today. Is that a fair statement, right? Today we're going to start from scratch and build up the entire fab ecosystem. You know, all the suppliers, all the partners that are needed to make a fab successful have to come in and support that. And then the broader ESDM system, we can argue, right, to what extent it exists and how that's going to impact the success of the fab. So I'd like to start by getting your perspective on that.
Yeah, I would agree that to a large extent the fab ecosystem really doesn't exist. However, you know, it's an opportunity for it to get set up. What it means is that this will throw up opportunities for many other companies, you know, be it chemicals. For example, let's look at chemicals. We do certainly have a lot of activity in the chemicals area. It's just that we've never gone into ultra high purity chemicals, but that's something which will open up now. So although we don't have it today, I'm sure that ecosystem will build up. To some extent, of course, we were hoping this ecosystem would build up during the photovoltaics phase, because they would need the same chemicals and so on. And I mean, I would really like to see and hope that the electronic manufacturing and the photovoltaics manufacturing going forward together does actually create the whole fab ecosystem. Going to the other issue, and that is the broader ecosystem, I think, you know, elements of that definitely exist. The only thing is to synergize it as we go along. We do have an outstanding design ecosystem already present, and as was mentioned, you know, co-location is important, and that's part of the strength we have going into the fab. But we need to make sure that the design ecosystem synergizes with the fab. And of course bring in the electronic system design ecosystem as well.
Okay.